أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum, my brothers in Islam. In this video, I will again prove or invite, call, warn the Muslim Umma to be extremely careful. I don't know the difference in terms of life between efforts in this world to achieve something and efforts to achieve something in the grave or after the grave. If you don't learn a particular skill, what is your fate? It's not a matter of knowledge, but a matter of learning skill. What will be your fate? Let me tell you a very interesting example. We had a lecturer with the title Doctor in 1977. He passed the same methodology as I passed to be called a doctor. But he did not do one important thing. That is housemanship. He was refused to practice medicine. Let me repeat. MBBS, I forgot his name, doctor. But he did not practice housemanship. 1 year's supervision to go around, I don't know in Britain, but I think we went around 4 disciplines in order to cushion you, to prime you that you will not make mistakes that will cost the life of the patient. So he refused to be called doctor with treating patients. He never treated, he never prescribed. He never touched a patient on a couch. But what did they do? He taught us statistics. Look at this, my brothers. So what I'm telling you from sincere experience of what is to learn and have the practical knowledge on what you learned. But you Muslims, well, there's not a single example you will give to a Muslim to understand the reality after the grave. That it's also the reality today. I keep on saying, I don't prescribe because I have retired. But I haven't retired in the hereafter. I must read. And I must practice. I think most likely this year, I don't know, but I heard people saying the fasting for the month of Ramadan will be 2nd April. Could be. I'm sure it is 2nd April. But let's ensure that it is 2nd April. You must be sure. You see, whatever you are doing in Islam, people have been deceiving you. Without certainty, without yaqeen, ilm al-yaqeen, then you are in trouble. You see, if you quote, you say anybody you want to quote that he said this, you must ensure that you have read that particular, whatever he said on that, but what that particular instructions from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you did not read it, it is useless even if you practice it. It's argument. Keep on opinion and disagreement. فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. In the long we shall know who is telling the truth. So, as I said, we had been fasting. I don't know for how many years, but I'm sure in Nigeria, in the north, I can't say because my grandfather used to take me out and sight the crescent, truly speaking. So I will not say that he fasted without sighting the crescent, and also breaking fast. So, but the majority, I don't know the percentage, for 1,000 years of Islam in Nigeria, truly speaking, I don't know how many. But positively, for 30 years, from 1990 to today, I doubt if how many in the north ever had complete month of Ramadan rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of two important things: the sighting of the crescent, Fajr time, and the time for breaking the fast. I explained this clearly in my book. Astronomical calculation that obscuring the crescent. So, what remains for you? Personal interest. Now, I read one book by Sheikh Al-Munajjid. He said about breaking the fast. Very, very critical. He said, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would not pray Maghrib until he had broken his fast, if only with a sip of water. And he said, reported by Al-Hakim and Silsilat al-Sahiha. Now, we quote hadiths, but what is the purpose of the hadith? What is the fiqh of that particular hadith? This hadith is just, if you read it, take any Sahaba that was during Safar. It was during the journey that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam instructed a Sahaba to give him something, jada, that he will break fasting. So it was Rasulullah who was fasting. But don't think that it was not after his prayers. So that is teaching, and that's practical. Secondly, from my research, those quoting this, that he took his meal before he prayed Maghrib prayer, were most likely Ansars, people of Medina, not people of Mecca. You see, even this speciality can be very touchy in understanding the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the people of Medina were under the influence of the Levi tribes of the children of Israel, because that was the Sunnah. Okay? So, if they quote, please try to understand that they are quoting on their previous experience, not necessarily on the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You will never find any difference between Ruwaya by a Ansar and the Ruwaya by a Muhajirin on the obligatory prayer, because it was dealt and resolved at the particular instance. أول مرة. You would not have for example, the hadith that they used to blow horn when they were calling their own prayer. Never of that, because it did not happen. Prayer was from day one established by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you will never find any contradiction or different ahadith. But if there are different ahadith, that means it must have been specific and targeted. It has got its own reason of, as we call it, as asbabul nuzul of hadith, which most of us don't even take time to understand. Okay, so you never had any difference or understanding different ruwaya like given alms, because it's different from that of the Jews. So the hadith on, in particular, Ramadan could be influenced by the activities and the practice of the children of Israel. So, and in this particular hadith, he was actually on a journey. All the narrators narrated this, he was on a journey. So, if you read further, you'll see the argument that, you have to pray before you break your fasting. You have to pray before you break your fasting, as I explained in my book. So that is the mistake. Now, then he said, if a person is certain or thinks it most likely, or is not sure whether he broke the fast before the proper time, he should make up the fast later on. So this again put us across the importance of seeking knowledge. He said, if a person is certain or thinks it most likely, or it is not sure whether he broke the fast before the proper time, he should make up the fast later on. Because the basic principle is that the day is still there and has not ended. So you see, look at this. He should beware of relying on the word of small children or untrustworthy sources. And he should also beware of the time differences between different cities and villages when he hears the call to prayer on the radio and so on and so forth. Must be extremely careful. But Maghrib time is easy. Hardly you'll find mistakes. But what is important is that you must be sure there is no guessing in Islam. It's perfection. Okay? Now, then he mentioned, when the dawn comes, that is Al-Fajr, which is the white light coming across the horizon in the east, spreading horizontally, the fasting person must stop eating and drinking straight away. Critical. Whether he hears the adhan or not. Again, another proof of the importance of being independent. Ijtihad, to choose your own slot in paradise. If he knows that the muaddin calls the adhan at dawn, he has to stop eating and drinking as soon as he hears his adhan. But if the caller, muaddin, calls the adhan before Fajr, he does not have to stop eating and drinking when he hears it. Again, indication that you must know. If he doesn't know the muazzin's usual practice, or there are differences among the muazzins, exactly, and he cannot determine the time of dawn for himself, which is unacceptable, as is usually the case in certain cities because of lightning and the buildings. I don't agree. He cannot determine the time of dawn for himself because of ignorance and arrogance. Because of ignorance, definitely he is supposed to be sure. Ayn al-yaqeen and ilm al-yaqeen. This is ayn al-yaqeen, not ilm al-yaqeen, because it's ayn al-yaqeen. Because lightning and the buildings does not affect actually sighting of Fajr. Yes, in my house, you see, you know where to move at the site. Definitely. My brothers, there is no excuse in making mistake to enter paradise. He should take the precaution of referring to a printed timetable. They are all wrong. They are all wrong because they don't know actually the exact time of Fajr. They are wrong. I don't think there is any timetable printed that tells you the exact time of Fajr. You see, if we don't trust, you see, in the episodes of authority, the benchmark is, what do you call it? Blind blind followership. Bid'ah. Because sami'na wajadna aba'ana ala ummatin. That is our attitude and our practice. So what is the justification of telling you the truth? That's not justification. It's better you are advised to read. That's why I say read my books, because there are references if you don't agree. After elucidations, all timetables are wrong. Then he further emphasized, so long as he is sure that the calculations on which it is based are not incorrect. Alhamdulillah. The calculations based are incorrect. My brothers, there are only 2 books so far I have read, or 4, I can't remember the 2, that convinced me. Here, Al-Munajjid in volume 1. I don't know the page. Then, Zad al-Ma'ad, I think it's in volume 2 or volume 3. You see, explanation is the core, the fiqh of understanding the Sunnah. Especially in our time, a time of arrogance and disagreements. No authority in Islam. So what Munajjid says is what I'm telling you. But unfortunately, Munajjid, he did not tell us his own personal experience. But I'm sure he is referring, I don't know from where he is. I'm sure he is referring to his experience based on Umm-al-Qura calendar. I'm not blaming Saudis, no. They say it is not a calendar for Sunnah. Specifically, we read it so many times. I have been in this forum or cogmare of misunderstanding for over 40 years. He said, the idea of being on the safe side by stopping eating and drinking a certain time before Fajr, such as 10 minutes before, is bid'ah. He is correct. It's not that you know that this is the time of Fajr. So what will make you stop 10 minutes before? You can stop 2 minutes before, a minute before. He said on some timetables you can see one heading for imsak, stopping, and another for Fajr. This is something that is contrary to Islam. Everything ibadat is contrary to Islam in the Muslim world today. So my brothers, you have to be extremely careful. Before April, do your best to learn from the right source, but not from one hadith, from a lot of hadith. But my book summarizes everything for you to understand. Try to forgive yourself by learning, first of all, and then before Allah forgives you. Because judge yourself before you are judged. If you judge yourself that you are wrong, that means you have forgiven yourself. Then Allah will forgive you. Then you weigh your deeds before they are weighed. That is the advice of Umm-al-Qura. So my brothers, with this small idea, I will let you know. It is totally wrong to be adding a minute or so for Fajr prayer or for Fajr. Fajr is static. If you read, you'll understand it in my book. If you read, it is static, doesn't change until the next month. So you can have 2 Fajr times in a month. That means the time of Fajr is only changed once in a month. So my brothers, as I said, please try to read and understand in English language. Arabic is not easy. There are so many convolutions and the inflections in Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum.